Edward Snowden says the weakness of the U.S. charge against Assange is shocking. The allegation he tried and failed to help crack a password during their world-famous reporting has been public for nearly a decade. It is the count Obama's Department of Justice refused to charge, saying it endangered journalism. I'll have more on that in a bit. Former Alaska Senator and now presidential candidate, Mike Gravel, who, by the way, I reached out to his press people this afternoon to try and get an interview. So, not sure if he has a big operation, but I reached out to the email for his campaign. He has said he's not trying to actually become president. He just wants to get on the debate stage. And frankly, in some ways, he's equal to, if not more left, than Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard. But he's also, I think, 88 or 89 years old. With the arrest and possible extradition of Julian Assange, the United States comes ever closer to an authoritarian police state. Assange must be pardoned immediately. Anything else is unacceptable. I agree with you, former Senator Gravel, but I also disagree with you. We're not getting ever closer to an authoritarian police state. We're already there. And I could tell you, because I was in North Dakota on and off for 6 months in 2016 and early 2017, we're already in an authoritarian police state. It's just hidden in plain sight with no media to expose it. That's what status quo exists to do. And I'm not going to use cheap gimmicks today. You know the drill. I want you, if you're watching, this is a day, if any is a day, to consider supporting independent media. This is the day. Obama Department of Justice tried to concoct a theory to justify arresting Assange for more than merely publishing documents, such as claiming that he aided Manning in the theft of documents. They found no evidence for it. Trump DOJ will likely manufacture some falsehood to claim it's more than publishing. He followed up, if you're a U.S. media star who has spent 2 years claiming to be so concerned about press freedoms over Trump's mean tweets about your friends, but don't raise your voice in protest over this grave attack on press freedom, take a hard look in the mirror. Apparently, MSNBC's Chris Hayes missed that memo as he sat here and joked about the arrest of Julian Assange and subtly equated him with huckster and embezzler and fraud Michael Avenatti. Hold on, currently writing a one-act play set in a federal prison with Assange and Avenatti as cellmates. What's so unbelievably horrific about that tweet by Chris Hayes, who I could tell you because I've spoken with him off the record. I spoke with him off the record several times. On the campaign trail in 2016, I saw him in Wisconsin and other places. I won't tell you what we talked about because as a journalist, if I agree to off the record, that's it. But he's a fraud, and I'll leave it at that. What you see on TV isn't what you see behind the scenes, but I guess that couple $1 million, or whatever, fancy suits they give him, it's a powerful drug, eh? But what's so horrific about that tweet by Chris Hayes is, MSNBC, it seems like 20 years ago, but MSNBC, with Keith Olbermann in 2007 and 2008, and Rachel Maddow, like in the beginning, when I was first paying attention to politics, I first started paying attention to politics really in 2003, 2004. I remember my freshman year in college was 2004 in Tampa, Florida. I kind of gazed at politics from time to time, but I wasn't obsessed with it. I never even voted before then. I was only 18 at the time. And, I didn't know anything. I thought, Democrats, great. Republicans, bad. I was naive, like many of you first starting out. And I watched that debate between Kerry and George W. Bush. And something in me, maybe intuition, without knowing much about the Iraq War, looked at George Bush and said, he's trying to make this man, John Kerry, seem unpatriotic for wanting to get us out of an incredibly fraudulent war. Even I knew it was a fraudulent war. In high school, I knew a guy who went to Iraq and died. So I started watching MSNBC. And Keith Olbermann was like my drug. I went to the bar later in college. I stopped going to hang out with friends friends would tell me to meet up, and I was like, no, I'll meet up later. Because every night, 8 o'clock, Keith Olbermann. Because his righteous journalistic rage against the Bush administration was the rage I felt. That was on Chris Hayes' network. MSNBC, when WikiLeaks released these war crimes that they got from Chelsea Manning, they were outraged with me. Did any of you watch MSNBC back in those days? Rachel Maddow loved WikiLeaks then. Keith Olbermann, Chris Hayes, they all loved them. But suddenly, it's all just a joke. And Julian Assange is a Russian agent. Which gets to the bottom line, folks. Money has a strange way of changing people for the worse. Money is a strange way of changing once credible and courageous and righteously indignant people like Chris Hayes. I don't know if he was so righteously indignant. He was always kind of a dork. Into now becoming an establishment, just public relations agent for the government. That's what that tweet is. Here's a statement from Chelsea Manning's lawyers, who, by the way, Chelsea Manning has been in solitary confinement because she had refused to testify against Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. So now she's in solitary confinement for the second time in her life. Today, Chelsea Manning's legal team will file a reply brief in their appeal asking the Fourth Circuit to vacate District Court Judge Hilton's March 8th finding of civil contempt. Ms. Manning, a staunch advocate for government transparency, asserted legal grounds for her refusal to participate in what she views as an assault on the free press. She remains in detention as a result of the contempt finding. The Assange indictment disclosed this morning strengthens their claims of grand jury abuse, says Manning's attorneys. Quote, the indictment against Julian Assange unsealed today was obtained a year to the day before Chelsea appeared before the grand jury and refused to give testimony. The fact that this indictment has existed for over a year underscores what Chelsea's legal team and Chelsea herself have been saying since she was first issued a subpoena to appear in front of a federal grand jury in the Eastern District of Virginia. That compelling Chelsea to testify would have been duplicative of evidence already in the possession of the grand jury and was not needed in order for U.S. attorneys to obtain an indictment of Mr. Assange. Grand juries may not be used for the sole and dominant purpose of preparing for trial, including questioning potential trial witnesses. Since her testimony can no longer contribute to a grand jury investigation, Chelsea's ongoing detention can no longer be seriously alleged to constitute an attempt to coerce her testimony. As continued detention would be purely punitive, we demand Chelsea be released. Chelsea Manning, for the second time in solitary confinement, for the crime of exposing the truth. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.